Well, hello there, and welcome to the Let's Talk Fabulous show. I'm Joy Willett, and I am your host this week. And today we are actually celebrating something really wonderful. It's Grandparents' Day. And so we're going to be joined by an amazing panel of guests who are grandparents as well as elders. So, what do you think? Let's talk. Well, hello there, my friends. I'm having fun. Are you guys?
Yeah.
It's been a wild and rocky morning already, but we are grandparents and elders, and we can handle anything and everything, can't we? So first I'd like to go around and ask you to say your name and where you're beaming in from today. Let's start with you, Cynthia.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Bellini, and I'm in Eagle, Colorado. And it's great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, great to have you. Sid, how about you?
I'm Sid McNary, and I'm over here in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, and just happy to be here.
Great. We're happy to have you too, Sid. Gloria.
Hello, I am Gloria Grace Rand, and I'm just down the road from Sid in Melbourne, Florida.
Nice.
Well,
nice.
awesome. Yay. I love it when people are close by, and thinking about lineages and grandparents and elders. I want to share something really special that one of our guests has prepared for us. So take a listen.
What a great thing to be talking about. Our elders, our grandparents, the people that came before us. I'm excited for this conversation, to be here on this Legacies series and talking with Joy, because my grandmothers, all of my grandmothers, my grandfather, and my parents, everybody that's come before me is exactly why I'm able to hold the state of peace I hold in the world. And because of the foundation that I've had, it's given me access to the traditions in the Native American culture. It's given me access to traveling all over the world and meeting people that I didn't even know I was related to. So I'm excited for this conversation because it's truly, as a Native American person, as an indigenous person of this land, I know that the 7 generations before me, the ones that I stand on their shoulders, the ones that laid down the prayers for me to come forward, that's exactly why I'm here and why I get to bring peace. So I'm excited. Sid McNary, excited to be here with you. Peace.
Sid, that is amazing. And
Beautiful.
I would love, this is so cool that you're our first person that is here, and you're representing some very amazing lineages. And so tell us a little bit about your lineage and some of the special grandmothers and elders in your life that have inspired you to become the person that you are now in the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you, one, for having me, and I'll start off with just my lineage. I consider myself human. You go look me up on Wikipedia or Wikipedia, all those different things. You'll see it just says human, because I'm Egyptian, Native American, Indonesian, Scottish, French, a whole lot. And I'm blessed that in my life I've had a lot of elder grandmothers that adopted me along the way, from Ruby Giddens from Barbados, and my Ruby or Bubby and from Germany, the camps, and all the people that spoke into my life and just taught me to be for other people, and my biological grandmothers who had native blood of this land, however you want to look at that, and because nobody really is native of this land, we all migrated here in some way. no matter who we are. And I know some people might get upset with that because they may consider themselves here first. Yet we're all humans doing what we do as humans.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just spoke to Grandmother Morningstar this morning because she was able to talk to me about my dream last night. So having somebody that I can lean into that way, that put me out on the mountain, held the space of the 13 Palladian grandmothers for me in this life so that I could become who I am. I'm forever grateful for all the people that have lifted me up in that way. So that's kind of the beginning. You know, I don't want to take up too much space, but yeah, that's it.
Well, it's a wonderful beginning, and you are doing some amazing work. And I just thought this would be wonderful for you to share what you're creating as a lineage, as an elder, because I know you consider yourself an elder, correct?
Yeah, at this point, you know, I didn't get to shave this morning, so you can see my grays and my beard. So yeah, when I look in the mirror, I consider myself an elder. Yeah, for sure. And, you know, having probably the greatest thing that's happened in my life at this moment. And I've had absolutely amazing things from amazing people. And I have my wife, Liz, that, you know, is totally, well, one, she's here and we support each other of lifting up. And we just got back from Sweden for the World Peace Awards. And I actually had no concept of that award when I was told I had been nominated and that I won, and they wanted me to come over. And so that part of it, being able to reach well beyond myself, my own awareness in that way, to be able to go and connect to people, the elders. I mean, I met a guy, Master I'm Not, who paints, and I'm talking, when I say paint, like I've sold paintings for thousands of dollars. This guy's artwork is incredible. He uses a sword and a samurai sword and knives to paint with. And so I just met some people that turned my awareness even higher to what I can become. And I feel that we can only do that when we are willing to sit with our elders, the people that have been here before, so that we can see something that we haven't seen before.
I love that, Sid. That is absolutely beautiful and amazing. And we will be having more of a roundtable discussion here as we go along, sharing from our hearts. And that's what this show is about, a legacy of love. And certainly our grandparents or the elders that we got to know, or as an older person that we get to share with the younger people in this day and age is certainly super, super important. And with that, I want to go into our next guest, who also is pretty amazing in her eldership.
Hello there. My name is Cynthia Bellini, and I live in the mountains of Colorado. I am delighted to be here to share my ancestry. I have Italian grandparents on both sides that arrived in the United States at Ellis Island in the early 1900s. I have heard stories about that arrival. I've heard stories about their life in Italy before they came, and their struggles and their successes here in America. I have 8 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. I do share with them about their great-great-grandparents. I took the name Bellini, which was my maternal great-grandmother's name. She had 12 children, and I wanted to carry on her lineage. I appreciate being here, and I look forward to telling a special story about my maternal grandparents. Thank you, and God bless.
Wow, Cynthia, that is absolutely an amazing story. And
Thank you.
we want to hear more. And you're actually a great grandmother, and you have quite the lineage, don't you, of knowing where your family came from. And we want to hear
Yeah.
that story that you were talking about.
Yes, I feel very blessed to be here. Thank you, and sharing with all of you. I am Italian on both sides. My grandparents, both sets, came from Italy and settled in America in the early 1900s. But it was my maternal grandparents that spent a lot of time with us when we were growing up. And I am grateful that I was able to get to spend that time with them in a very loving manner. They were wonderful people, and they were great wisdom people for me to carry on for my children and their children. I wanted to share a story, Joy, about my maternal grandparents and how they met. My grandfather was about 13 years older than my grandmother, but my grandfather came when he was 20 years old from Italy, and my grandmother came when she was about 10, and they both were at Ellis Island. And my grandmother had to stop going to school after 8th grade to support her mother, who didn't speak any English, and her sister. So she was working at a tool and die company on the East Coast, and she worked there for several years. And then one day, my grandfather walked in, and I'm not sure why he was there, but he went in and he met my grandmother. And they started getting to know each other. And at the age of 17, my grandmother married my grandfather. And the one promise she made to him was, we will get married if it's fine for my mother to live with us, because she didn't speak English. She was just getting used to being in America. And my grandfather said, of course. So they raised my grandfather's daughter because his wife, I'm sorry, had died in childbirth, giving birth to their daughter. And then they had my mother about 3 years later. So it was a blended family, but it was an Italian family, and Italians always watched out for each other. So when I heard that story, I thought it was such a loving way for them to connect and to share with us when we were growing up how life could truly be in a family. So I wanted to share that story because I thought it was a very special one. And I have one picture. I don't know if anybody can see this, but this was my grandparents' wedding picture.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
they were married around, what, 2000, 19, I'm in this other century here. And then this was my grandmother when she was about 17.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. She's beautiful. Oh my gosh.
And she was a
Yes.
very strong woman. And she worked with my grandfather on a business. So my great grandmother took care and raised the two girls while my grandparents were working.
Ah,
And so the whole thing just, was supposed to be that way. And
that,
I am very grateful for knowing that and
oh,
sharing
well,
that. Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that lineage and that love. And, you're a great grandmother and a grandmother and a mother. And you are
Yes.
also, I will say, you're a healer. You are an author, best-selling author on many, many topics. So tell us a little bit about your legacy that you're living with your own personal family, because I know you're very involved with your grandkids, right? As well
Yes,
as
I
to the
am.
world, as well as to the world.
Yeah. Well, many of them live in Colorado. Well, they all live in Colorado, actually. And we're a blended family because when I was married, my husband brought two of his sons into our marriage because he had custody. So there again was a blended family, like my grandparents had a blended family. And they all were raised in Colorado and with horses and animals and healthy food and lots of love and lots of sharing. And so they are doing very, very well raising their family. And I feel really blessed to be able to spend time with them and to have the love that we have. Yes. So.
Well, and you're one of the most amazing, beautiful great grandmothers that I've ever met. And you've written books. I mean, you're active and you do, you do yoga,
Yes.
and you've written books about the water and healing, and about how your latest book is about how to grow gracefully, grow older gracefully, correct? It's about being an elder, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a journey, and it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to experience all the wonderful things that I've had in my life. And so I feel very blessed about that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And well, thank you, Cynthia. And
Thank you.
we are still waiting to hear from one of our other beautiful grandmothers to come on. So I'm not sure if she's going to be able to make it, but I do have her video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Sena Rose's video. She may or may not get onto our show today. And she's absolutely amazing and has an amazing story also. So I'm going to play Sena Rose right now.
Hello, happy to be here today with all of you to celebrate Grandparents' Day. I was a young mother and divorced with 2 babies at 19, and so my mother was my role model for grandparenting. And I knew through her that I wanted to be a grandparent from a very young age and to be the very best I could be, as I hadn't had that example as a young child myself. And I have had that. My granddaughter is now 16 and an amazing young woman. So I look forward to hearing the stories of others and exploring what grandparents truly mean in a society of changing times. Thank you.
Yeah. And Sena Rose is a beautiful, I will say, she's a healer in her own right. She follows her heart and her intuition. And she has a wonderful story, which maybe we'll hear at another time on another show, about how she was led to follow that intuition before she even knew that her son and daughter-in-law were going to be having her now granddaughter, who's now 16. She followed her heart and her intuition to come back and be around that family, that young family, overriding her mind and where she thought she should be going. And now she has this incredible granddaughter who is also, I will say from the stories I've heard from Sena Rose, that she is also very highly intuitive. And it's part of that feeling of, that our grandkids and the younger people look up to us, don't they? On some levels. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but I want to share another video. So unfortunately, Sena Rose is not here yet. Maybe she'll still pop in. However, I want to share this next story about our next guest.
When I was growing up, I knew that my grandmother had come to the United States from Hungary when she was only 17 years old. It was in like 1920. But I never knew actually why she came to this country until actually it was during her funeral when my uncle was shared the story about that. And it turns out that I knew my grandmother had a lot of brothers and sisters, but she actually was one of 7 children. And during World War I, her father had to join the army, and unfortunately, he died there, and his body never recovered. And so now, my great-grandmother has to raise 7 kids and feed them. And I guess within a couple years, she decided, along with my great aunt, actually to send their 2 eldest daughters to America to so they would have a better chance at life. And that's what happened. So my grandmother went to New York. She eventually got a job as a live-in maid and nanny. And actually the child she was taking care of taught her English because she came here not knowing the language. And that was, since she was also getting room and board, she sent home her earnings. She sent that back to Hungary for her family. And I just really want to honor the courage and the strength that my grandmother had. So thank you, Grandma.
That was, oh,
Well,
that was
there's a little
beautiful.
lag here when I move you around here, so it's
All good.
one of the fun things. And you know what touched me besides all of, I mean, you had the manifest on there of the boat, the pictures. I mean, these are living, breathing stories, Gloria, aren't they? But I loved, I mean, I could cry. Sometimes we say, get your Kleenex, but that you said, thank you, Grandma. And isn't that kind of how we talk to our people, whether it's our moms and dads, our grandparents, great-grandparents, our beautiful elders, people that have our wisdom keepers that have taken time to love us, and that is imprinted on us. Tell us a little bit more, Gloria Grace, about these beautiful people who mean so much to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I do want to say thank you because I wouldn't be here if she hadn't decided to come to, well, I know, as I said, she didn't really decide. I think it was decided for her to come to the United States. But I really, my grandmother was a tough woman, but I mean, she was very loving to me, especially as a little girl. But I know my mom and her did not always get along, did not always see eye to eye. Isn't that the case with mothers and daughters sometimes? But I really, I so regret the missed opportunity that I didn't have to really ask her more about her life experiences. And it may be that she didn't want to share them, which I think, sometimes happens because in doing some research into Hungary especially during World War I, I mean, a lot of people were starving. And so again, it's like when I think about, that she's one of 7 kids, it's no wonder that her mom decided to send her to the United States because she wanted to give her a better life. And the other interesting story that my uncle shared about her was that after she was done, I guess, working for this family for a while, she wound up moving to New Jersey, and where she got a job working for 2 brothers who were running a pharmaceutical factory, and they were named Johnson. So she was working for Johnson & Johnson way back then. And that's actually where she met my grandfather, although because he worked there too, but I guess she hated him at the beginning because he was always bothering her. But evidently that bothering, I guess, wore off on her. And she finally decided that, okay, maybe there's something with this man. So without him, again, I wouldn't be here. My mother wouldn't be here. So I'm glad that she was able to finally give him the time of day. So yeah, and I she was the only grandmother that I knew as well, because my dad's parents had both passed before I was born. I was the baby of the family, so I came along late. So she was my grandmother, and the one other cherished memory I have of her, and this was from when I was really little, is she used to have a garden that I would go out and look at, and she used to plant. I say plant, but she would put fake flowers in amidst the plastic ones, or amidst the real ones, so that even if the real ones weren't there, weren't growing, that she still had some pretty flowers out there. And she used to give me butter cookies. I always have this lovely green cookie jar that I now have at home, because that was my treat. And she always used to say, "Gloria, can I have some of your hair? You have so much hair," because I had really thick hair. And I'm like, "No, Grandma, no, you can't have my hair."
Oh, that is wonderful. It's all of those memories that make up our heart connection to our grandparents and our elders, or maybe it's a neighbor in the neighborhood that we love, or an uncle. The food, the smells, the talks, that they took time to really share their heart, and they paid attention to us. And isn't that what we're kind of all wanting to bring into this world now, and what we need? So with that, I'm going to play something, and it is going to touch your heart like it touches mine.
In the quiet moments, when the sun begins to rise, we find the strength within us. In the stories of our lives, not in gold or glory, but in hearts we've touched with grace, in the love we share with others, in each kind and gentle face. Your legacy is the love you leave behind, in the hands you've held and the souls you've helped to find. It's the laughter in the children, the wisdom in the old. It's the light you sparked in others, in the stories that are told. Through the trials and the triumphs, in the battles that we fight, it's the courage and the kindness that will always shine so bright. In the lessons that we teach and the dreams that we inspire, in the way we lift each other higher and higher. Your legacy is the love you leave behind, in the hands you've held and the souls you've helped to find. It's the laughter in the children, the wisdom in the old. It's the light you sparked in others, in the stories that are told. In the final song you sung, and the curtains drawing near, it's the moments filled with love that will echo year to year. In the footprints on the path that guide the lost and blind, your legacy will live on in the hearts you've left behind. Your legacy is the love you leave behind, in the hands you've held, the souls you've helped to find. It's the laughter in the children, the wisdom in the old. It's the light you've sparked in others, in the stories that are told. So let's live with open hearts and give with all our might, for the legacy we leave is a beacon in the night, in the echoes of our actions, in the whispers of the wind. Our legacy of love is where it all begins. Our legacy of love is where it all begins. legacy will live on in the hearts you've left behind.
Wow. Wow.
It's really
What did you all
beautiful.
think about that? Yeah, Cynthia.
That was wonderful.
Mm.
Yeah, I had heard that once before. I'd seen it, and it just brought tears to my eyes. It's so beautiful the way he did it. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. He's an amazing
Yeah.
man and soul and creator, steampunk Poe, and he's part of this beautiful community and the legacy. And it is about a legacy of love. And so, Sid, how did that touch you?
I mean, Legacy, I got to be on the cover of Legacy magazine.
Oh, wow.
And it was great because it got me to think about what I was leaving. Like, you know, my elders, my grandmothers and everybody always said that we borrowed this earth from the next 7 generations to come. And so how we leave it is our legacy to them. And so I think about that often, and that's why I continue to dedicate to peace, because I know how I set it up is whether or not there'll be an earth for me to return to. And I think that's important. And that he had on there, I can be more. My grandmother had a saying in her house that my dad passed down to me, and it's, I can, I will, I must. Anything outside of that, you may have to duck, because she was probably going to swing if you said anything else. And so that was a legacy that was left, you know, for us to strive into. That's why so many of us have gone to college, and we all continue to build on the power that was left behind us. And I think that's a great thing to look at.
I love that. I love that. And before we get to Gloria Grace, there were a few comments in there with purple hearts. So we have a special Purple Hearts club, and I'm just feeling compelled to do this. Yes, and that's in memory of some of our beautiful friends, and especially one person that has gone on. However, we're always connected, aren't we? And let's talk about what that means to first be connected to our elders. And Sid, you just talked about it, but I'm going to go over to Gloria Grace, and let's talk about what do we get from our grandparents, our elders? What feeds our soul from them?
Oh, goodness. Well, you know, I think the one thing, and again, in doing the research to create this video today, made me think of the one legacy I think that she passed on to my mother as well as to me is strength. You know, because it took a real strength of courage for her to come to this country, not knowing the language, and to have to, I mean, she did have a cousin with her, so she wasn't, you know, and there was an uncle in New York, but still, you know, to be able to do that. And I know that my mom was an extremely strong person, and she did get to be a grandmother because I have 2 children. And so I did get to, you know, witness that when Sena Rose was talking about, you know, the role model. I don't know if I'm going to have grandchildren myself, but if I were, I know that my mom set a good example of how to be one, because she really doted on my kids, just loved them tremendously and loved spending time with them. And it was so funny because for the longest time, she was like, "Oh, Gloria, don't be in a hurry to have kids. Don't be in a hurry." And yet, once I had them, she was all over being that, you know, stereotypical grandma who's gonna spoil them rotten. But it's a good thing. And you know, one other thing I wanted to mention too is that I think Sid had mentioned that, you know, it's not only our blood ancestors that we can count on as grandparents, because when I when I was in my 20s, I moved to Miami, and I had my grandmother was living there, so I did know her, but I joined this church choir and was sort of adopted by this other couple. And they were just so wonderful. And I'm still connected with a gentleman, Jimmy, he's pushing 90 now, but he is still active, and he's still an amazing person. And he has been like a grandfather for my kids, because again, they've lost their grandfathers now. And so he has still been there for them. And that's, like I say, it's amazing. It doesn't have to be, this legacy of love can come from all sorts of people. It doesn't have to be your immediate family. It can come from other wonderful friends out there as well.
Absolutely. I love that. It is so true. Who wants to piggyback off of what Gloria said? Gloria Grace.
I'd love to.
All right. Let's do it, Sid.
The thing that comes up for me is with what Gloria was saying was that we definitely, if we see a need in the world, my thing is peace. Anybody that knows me that way, if I see that peace can be elevated in some way, it's up to me to be that. If I see that a child is without their parents, it's okay for me to parent. I mean, we're on one world. There's one, the law of one says we're all together. You can't separate that, right? Like from me to each and every one of you, there's a direct line of atoms touching anybody else listening. So if I shift me, everybody feels it directly. It's no indirects to that. And so for me, I really honor that, Gloria, that stepping into and elevating together. I mean, I grew up with a huge family. Like I said in the chat, my grandmother had 21 siblings. Yeah. So I knew that no matter where I was, there was somebody I was probably related to. And I can still say that today, and that's a powerful feeling of knowing that I'm connected to everyone, and continuing to live into that is so important.
Yeah.
That is so true. All right, Cynthia, how about you step into the conversation here? I'd love it.
It's a wonderful conversation. Thank you for sharing. I did want to mention that, and I don't know if I mentioned that, when my grandfather was married, he gave birth to my aunt, but she died, my aunt died in, his wife died in childbirth. Did I mention that before? I don't remember if I did. So my grandfather went back to Italy to see if he should go back to Italy to raise his baby there. But World War I was just heating up, and he decided it wouldn't be a safe place. So he came back, and he had relatives that helped raise my aunt until my grandfather met my grandmother, and then they had their daughter. So it was a combination of circumstances that they were able to blend and find the way to come together. And I truly believe that we are a community of people. We're all individuals, but we're all in this, on this Mother Earth together. And I truly believe that peace and love has always been the direction for us to take. And so I just wanted to share that with you. Just to combine the essence of who we are in this world and what we can contribute to each other, and to be of service to each other and honor that. Yes.
That's so beautiful, Cynthia. And I love, there's so many different threads that we can go off on with this whole topic of lineage and legacy and elders and our responsibilities, or why are we here? What do we, as an elder or as a grandparent, what do we offer to this world? What's our intrinsic value? Who wants to go first on this one? What's our value anyways? Why are we important? Or are we?
I mean, I'll jump in.
All right, go ahead.
But if Gloria, if you're ready, go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, I think what we have to offer is certainly the wisdom and the experience, and sometimes the hard knocks, that we've experienced, that we can pass down. And I know I do that in my own business, trying to help my clients avoid some of the mistakes that I've made. But I certainly have also done that in just being a parent myself, as well as, my mom was not a perfect person. None of us are perfect people, but she also did the best she could with the knowledge she had. And so when I became a parent, there were certain things that maybe I didn't want to do, but then there were a lot of things that I did want to do. So for instance, she taught me how to read. I was only like 3 years old, so I knew how to read before I went into school. And so I did the same thing for my kids, is, I taught them to read and to enjoy a love of reading. And I think that's some of the things that we can do, is to pass down, some of the things like recipes. I think we had a previous Legacy of Love show where we kind of talked about that. And I have been going through sort of old things, and I found recipes actually from my grandmother that are still written in Hungarian. And so it's like, I try to get them translated, but luckily there were plenty of others in English. But actually that just brings me up another thing, is that, again, this legacy, I think of instilling, helping our children and the grandchildren know their roots. Because my daughter, and this is one regret that I had, is I didn't take the time to learn Hungarian when I was a child. But my daughter decided that she wanted to travel Europe, and she found out that she could get dual citizenship. She could become a Hungarian citizen. And so she learned how to speak and to write Hungarian. And now she's actually living in Budapest right now. And I think my mother, my grandmother would just be so proud of her, and just in awe that she has decided to do that. And so I don't know if that answered your question exactly, but that's sort of
the beauty of this topic, Gloria Grace and Cynthia, is that we can, like I said, it can go into all, because it's full of these neurological pathways that are our memories, our lineage, and what we do as legacy. Sid, you were going to hop in, so hop in now, and let's see what you've got to say, sir.
Well, it's something that came up in the chat, and Gloria mentioned this idea of perfect. And I'm going to debunk that right now. Everybody's perfect. Every action that anybody's done is perfect. Because without that perfect way of it being, I wouldn't be here now. So everything is perfect. This concept of things not being okay the way they've come is a falsity that we live into, and then we call ourselves not perfect and live into repeating the things that we say, what we even know that aren't perfect. And so when I look at that, I go back to my grandmother's great grandfather, and he went in Arkansas. So, Senator Llewellyn, like I said, I got a huge family. He went across to buy slaves across the Mississippi. He was a plantation owner. Now, I could sit here and act like racism was the worst thing ever, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to experience that today. Yet, that racism sent him across the Mississippi to buy slaves. And when he went across, he noticed a Blackfeet Indian lady. And he said, he pointed to her. They were trying to sell her to him. And he said, no, that's my wife of another lifetime. And he bought all of them and freed them on their land. Now, what they did was they had a lot of children, grandma with 22 siblings. They wanted to get the lightest skinned kid to pretend that that person was the plantation owner so they all could stay free. I'm a product of that. Like, so when I go and speak and stand for everybody, it's because of the legacy of that level of racism, of slavery, that I'm able to be in my DNA, at the core of me, that level of love. So I'm perfect. I'm perfect with all the shades and things that make me up. And I'm grateful for that. So I caution us the way we use our words to see what we are triggering as the repercussion of saying that those things were bad. We can't even get to the goodness of what things are. And so that's what shows up for me. So thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super powerful. I mean, yeah, wow, Sid. That well, again, okay, so Cynthia, you come in now on this one, okay? What is
Okay,
it
I'll
stir
try.
on you? What is it stir up?
I'll do my best, Joy.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it. And,
I'll do my best.
yeah.
After that. Okay. I think what I did learn from my grandparents was strength. They were honest, they were loving, and they displayed a lot of strength. And I believe that is what helped me get through some times in my life that were very difficult. And I believe that I also have talked to my children about that, different incidences, so that they can also have their strength through difficult times. And also by raising their children, knowing that they're there for their children until the time that their children leave the house, which several have, and have gone on their way. And I have always been the kind of person, I always try not to give advice unless somebody comes to me and asks me, because I feel that they need their own wisdom, their freedom to experience what they're here for. And so that's one thing that I've really felt was passed down from my lineage. Because my grandparents were never judgmental. They never told me what I should or shouldn't do. They were just constant there, even though they were going through their own situations. So I feel that that is a real important thing for me to understand in this lifetime and for my children.
I love that. And with that, I'm going to. Wow. So, yeah, so we've got a little bit of time left. This is a topic, again, I feel we could go into so many threads and storylines. And I want to go around it for each of you because you each have amazing lineages and you also have amazing legacies that you're working on and you're growing and you're being and you're living. You're a legacy to those that come behind you, whether they're your biological family or those that know and love you. And Gloria, you were talking about that 96-year-old Jimmy. Love Jimmy, and who's there making a difference. So what kind of difference, knowing that you each have been impacted so positively, and some people might not have been impacted positively by their grandparents, which Sena Rose was going to share a little bit. She did not have the best role models, but she also had a role model of her mother, breaking that chain. It's about breaking the lineage, and so that it is perfect all the time. Yes, I agree, Sid. And then we also create even more perfection. So what would you like to share, in a couple minutes raise your hand, about what is it that you feel our young people, or even just people today, need that we each got from knowing our lineages or having that special someone in a neighborhood that we could count on? Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll jump in because, yeah, and again, I didn't, like I said, I know my grandmother was not, didn't always show my mother the kindness, and I didn't know that until I was older and witnessed it. And at the same time, though, I think the one thing that we can do, and that our elders have shared with us, and I think the most important thing, and we've kind of touched on it, but maybe not really talked about it, is just frankly, just love. And that love can show up by just being there. It can be, holding a child on your lap. It could be, taking them to the park. Again, I'm thinking of my mom. We used to go to like McDonald's, and the kids would play in the ball pit, at McDonald's and things like that. But just to be able to, but even just spending time with them, go to the park or to go to the beach, but wherever and however, just listening to them. I think that's the other thing too, is that's another way that we can show listening to number one, listening up. So listening to our elders, and then also listening to our children, because that's what they really need. Everybody, no matter who you are, we all want to be seen and we all want to be heard. And that is how we can demonstrate love, by just doing that. So, yeah, I think that's what I want to share about
Beautiful.
that.
Cool. Thank you, Gloria Grace. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And who wants to go in next?
Well,
Jump in.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. Cynthia.
I totally agree with what you just said, because we're all individuals on our individual path. And to honor that, we can also honor the children that we've had. Of course, I've had the grandchildren and now the great-grandchildren, and spending time with them, listening to them, as you said, sharing stories. I like to share stories because I think stories are a very integral part of life. And if you don't share the stories, I was talking to one of my granddaughters one day, and she's 21 and she's in college. And I was sharing a story, and she looked at me and she said, "I have never heard that story before." And I said, "Well, it's good that you hear these stories." It was a very pleasant story having to do with family. So I think sharing stories is very important for me too. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And and that's something that over centuries and the story. And so Sid. Take it away.
Thank you everybody for sharing. And I love that I get to go last because I can kind of piggyback on what you said. And the first thing I'll start off with is the idea of frequency. Everything's a frequency. We walk in a room, people feel and decide what they think you are feeling based on walking in the room. That's a frequency that we come in. My frequency that I'm speaking with right now is a frequency. And when it comes to Dr. Hawkins, and he looked at frequencies, the highest frequency you can have in your life is peace before you become enlightened. So if we strive for peace, we will continue to elevate ourselves out of all the other things. The sicknesses that we experience, that's a lack of peace. Are you really at peace? How many people can say they're at peace when they get told they have cancer? Well, get to peace and cancer goes away. So looking at that, and when a friend of mine said on my, as we were talking one day, your frequency is what you frequently see. If you don't like what you're seeing, change
I
your
love that.
and I think that's such a powerful thing to sit in that. And we're talking to the future generations. It's, if you know better, do better. this idea of
Yeah.
wish Sena was here to share not having her grandparents in her life. That's great.
Mhm.
It's actually great.
Mhm.
Everything was created from the creator and the greatness of where we're going to go. And so not having our parents or experiencing these things that we call bad, well, if you know better, do better. You experienced them because you needed to learn something from the moment, get to a better place.
Yeah.
For the younger generation, listen twice as much as you speak. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak, because our people experience things well before you can even get there. Cynthia has a wealth of knowledge. I hope to someday get to listen to her stories, because what she has experienced, especially if it's something she didn't like, then I don't have to go through that. I can change that. So thank you for being willing to share. And the last thing I'll say is peace is possible in the world. Peace is possible, but we all must do the work, and it starts with ourselves. Again, if you don't like your frequency, shift it so that you see something different until you see peace in the world. Thanks.
Very well said,
Thank you.
Sid. And thank you to everyone. Our time has really flown by. And yes, we missed our beautiful Sena Rose. And Sena, when you watch this, just know you're in our hearts. And technology was
I don't know.
it was. However, we will definitely have Sena Rose on another time, because she is a wealth of wisdom and everything else. And so thank you, Cynthia, Sid, Gloria Grace, for sharing your legacies and your lineages of love with us today. And I hope that our audience will take away the nuggets of wisdom and go find your grandparents, your elders in the world, whether they're biological or someone that you know in your neighborhood. All right. So thank you very much. And
Thank you, Joy.
there we go. Yeah.
I want to say thank
Blessings.
you
Thank you,
for joining us today, and welcome you back next Sunday as we once again are joined by a panel of subject matter experts that will explore and focus in on our fabulous lives. Until next Sunday.